From MTN News, you're watching Montana This Morning.
The Gallatin City County Board of Health will discuss the limitations for events and group sizes in the county. I'm Gabby Crevitt, and I'll have that full story coming up.
And some big money spent by outside sources to promote legalization of marijuana in Montana. Coming up, learn why state voters may never learn who was really behind all that spending.
Well, good Friday morning. It is 6:30 for you. You're watching Montana This Morning, and we're looking at another sunny day. Yeah, Matt?
I love this time of year when you get some sunshine. You get to get out and pick up all the stuff that was buried in the snow for so much of the winter. Yeah, it's great. No, it is going to be beautiful today. It is cold this morning. Put on those coats as you head out the door. You'll be glad you have them with you, even into the afternoon. I think our daytime highs should be warming up nicely into the 40s. It's still going to feel just a little cool. It'll just be nice to have a little sunshine bearing down on you. Temperatures into the mid-50s or mid-40s. It does look like 50s are on the way, though. We'll talk about the timing of that and what to expect next weekend. And lots to get to. We'll talk about it, of course, in just a few minutes.
Thanks, Matt. Today, the Gallatin City County Board of Health will hold a special meeting to consider amending a COVID-19 related local public health rule.
The change would allow for increased group size limitations for events and group gatherings in Gallatin County.
MTN's Gabby Crevitt has a preview of what to expect.
The Gallatin County Fairgrounds is a community staple. They've hosted countless farmers markets, trade shows, weddings, celebrations of life, and now vaccine clinics. It's a place for gathering, which is why many who use the Gallatin County Fairgrounds will be keeping a close eye on the Board of Health meeting that starts Friday afternoon.
For as long as fairs and events have been in existence, it's been about being there.
Dennis Voller is the general manager at the Gallatin County Fairgrounds. He says while the general public uses the fairgrounds for a number of reasons, it's the small business vendors from home shows to trade fairs to ski swaps who have been hit the hardest because of the pandemic.
The impact is not necessarily to the fairgrounds or even to the promoter of the event. It's to those vendors that rent the booth space. Because lots of those people don't have, a fixed retail outlet. They don't have a store on Main Street. They don't have a store in a mall. They operate on this trade show and they run a circuit.
Voller says gathering restrictions forced many shows to cancel, which he estimates cut revenue for thousands of vendors, anywhere between 30 to 70%. On Friday, the Gallatin City County Board of Health will review a draft rule that could expand gathering sizes to 150 people for indoor gatherings and 250 people for outdoor gatherings. That would be up from 25 people for both indoor and outdoor gatherings and would require physical distancing measures in place. Voller says a move like that could bring the fairgrounds back to life.
Many of these shows would be allowed to take place. And that's the short term. And by short term, I mean in the next 3 months.
And yes, that includes the Big Sky Country State Fair. Reporting in Gallatin County, Gabby Crevitt, MTN News.
The Board of Health meeting begins this afternoon at 1 p.m. You can register to join the virtual meeting by visiting the Gallatin City County Health Department's website.
In other headlines, Gallatin County Emergency Management says it's not too early to start planning ahead for possible spring flooding. Flooding usually caused by obstructed waterways that block the flow of water, so make sure ditches and culverts on your property are free of debris. If you're concerned your property is at risk of flooding, Gallatin County Emergency Management says you should buy flood insurance. Flooding is not covered by your homeowner's insurance. The Chief of Emergency Management and Fire says it's all about being prepared in advance.
If you start seeing the water coming up, you see the conditions lining up where we have lots of rain coming for several days, it's warm temperatures, we've got lots of snow in the mountains, and those waterways start coming up, then be prepared and implement your plan early to protect your property.
Again, Gallatin County Emergency Management says there's no way to predict when spring flooding may hit, which is why the department stresses setting up a plan early.
Montana's top political cop now says a national group that spent millions supporting the state's recreational marijuana initiative will not have to reveal its donors.
MTN's Jonathan Amberian picks up that story.
Last week, Commissioner of Political Practices Jeff Mangan reversed his own decision from last year and ruled the North Fund is an incidental committee that doesn't have to disclose its donors. The North Fund, headquartered in Washington, D.C., contributed about $5 million to the group that sponsored Initiative 190 and Constitutional Initiative 118, by far the largest source of funding for the legalization effort. The organization initially filed as an incidental committee, saying spending on elections wasn't its primary purpose. Opponents of the legalization measures challenged that, and Mangan sided with them in a December decision, saying the North Fund hadn't provided enough evidence about its non-election related spending. In a letter last month, the fund's attorneys gave more information about that spending. The group spent millions on supporting progressive policies and advocacy groups. But since that money wasn't directly used for candidates or ballot issues, Mangan agreed the North Fund was only an incidental committee. In his decision, he said, quote, "The Commissioner's Office does not have the ability to change the law, no matter how much money an organization pours into Montana's elections. Additional safeguards and transparency measures can only be proposed through the legislative process to require more disclosure to the people of Montana in instances like this." The Commissioner's Office and an attorney for the North Fund declined to comment on this story. Steve Zabawa of the Anti-Legalization Committee Wrong for Montana said he's disappointed in Mangan's decision and that voters should have had the opportunity to see who spent all that money on this campaign. In Helena, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.
Now, I-190 and CI-118 set up the legal framework for recreational marijuana sales in Montana. However, the Montana legislature likely to consider changes to those laws during the last 2 months of this current session.
Well, President Biden has signed the stimulus legislation a day ahead of schedule.
Now, while stimulus checks are getting plenty of attention, addressing the hunger crisis may be one of the most important parts of this bill. An estimated 1 in 4 children have issues getting enough food.
Our Joe St. George walks us through why it is expected to be easier for parents to put food on the table now that the bill is signed.
One thing we were just stunned with is when we opened up what the need was.
When scenes like this appeared before the holidays, many were shocked. Now, 4 months later, they continue to play out week after week in cities big and small, car after car, waiting for food.
It's a nice little package that they get.
John Ross helps run the Nourishing Bethesda food distribution site. How serious is America's hunger crisis? Well, this is taking place in one of America's wealthiest counties, Montgomery County, Maryland. Some cars are fancier than others here, a sign of how all income levels have been impacted.
COVID is kind of an equal opportunity job slayer.
On this day,
it can get pretty crowded.
Bill is first in line for food.
I've been out of work for a while, and I'm pretty damn desperate.
He didn't always like coming here, but he swallowed his pride.
Peanut butter and jelly.
Because he needed to feed his kids.
Because they last. I'd rather be working for my food and whatnot, but I'm surviving.
Well, help for Bill and others is on the way. The new stimulus bill will include $1,400 stimulus checks, $300 a week bonus unemployment aid, a 15% increase in food stamp benefits through September, and an expansion of the child tax credit, which will perhaps have the biggest impact on poverty and hunger.
The way it was previously written, some of America's poorest families didn't qualify. Now they not only qualify, but payments will be available monthly.
Previously, you had to report at least $3,000 in earnings to the IRS to receive it. Under the stimulus bill, all married couples earning less than $150,000 a year qualify for the expanded child tax credit. $3,000 will be given for each child who is between 6 to 17 years of age. $3,600 will be given for each child under the age of 6. Half of the total amount will be paid out in monthly installments starting in July.
That's a big potato.
For Bill, that means at least $250 a month.
I could easily survive and not have to do this with $200 a month.
The stimulus bill, though, only creates this program for this year, but there's already a new push in Congress to make it permanent.
Taking a little extra care and love.
In the meantime, John and his group aren't giving up. Too many families are hungry.
And we run out of food and we have to turn people away sometimes.
In Bethesda, Maryland, I'm Joe St. George.
Bozeman residents will soon have an opportunity to become more involved in the city's beautification efforts. Applications for the city's cost share program opens Monday, March 15th. Every year, the city removes hundreds of dying or decaying trees many times from the previous winter weather. This year, the city will remove 900 trees. But the process doesn't stop there. Residents can apply to have a new tree planted on public property if they agree to maintain the tree by watering it.
You know, so they're vested if they pay into that tree that's sitting in front of their yard. It's on public property, but it's right next to their house. And so the cost share program just really is a good way to get them involved.
Just Gotta Water at the program splits the cost of the tree planting process between the resident and the city, totaling about $90 for the residents.
Oh, that's an easy deal right there, it seems to me.
Absolutely.
Good stuff.
Totally.
Yep.
Well, now that the president has signed the COVID relief bill, you might see a $1,400 check sooner than later. Just how soon that is coming, that's after the break.
But first, let's check in with our friends at CBS This Morning for a look at what's coming up at 7 o'clock.
Good morning. Ahead on CBS This Morning, President Biden calls for states to make COVID vaccines available to all adults by May 1st. We'll discuss the president's primetime speech and when we could actually see a return to normal life. Plus, only on CBS This Morning, country star Granger Smith and his wife Amber talk about living through loss and the hopeful next chapter for their family. And we'll look ahead to music's biggest night. We'll take you to the Grammy stage in LA and show you how Sunday's show will be unlike any previous Grammys extravaganza. Pretty cool. We'll see you all at 7.